That's something that business people can discuss and say, yeah, right or not. They can take to kind of an adult and get drunk about it and then decide on what they actually want to do about sub-accounts. Ideally, this would be something that analysts can look at and kind of figure out, well, these are the things that are missing compared to our other clients. These are the things that kind of we need to add from an analysis perspective, and these are the questions I want to ask. Should be something that developers can look at and say, well, kind of I see these functional gaps here. This doesn't make sense because the system works differently, so we need to kind of extend this. Or, hey, I have a question about this case. How do you want to resolve that? And ideally should be something that testers could use to kind of become this quality assistance, not quality assurance. The testers can use to provide developers with ideas about what to test without being responsible for executing the tests. So one interesting form of information to look at there are examples, because if you look at these cycles, examples tend to pop up several times. Examples tend to pop up in the attachments to emails that kind of business people send after the PowerPoint to analysts, because they try to clarify the kind of Zen stuff that's in the PowerPoint. Examples tend to pop up in what analysts send to developers, and what developers tend to send back as edge cases. Examples tend to pop up as test cases as well, because test cases are complete examples of what the system should actually do. But in most processes, there's absolutely nothing to ensure that the examples we started with have any relationship with the examples we end up with. Most of the time they don't. Now, one kind of potential idea that I urge you to explore is trying to use examples and just keep them. Just kind of preserve the examples that these people sent initially and use that to facilitate the discussion. You can add more examples as developers complain, add more examples as testers discuss stuff, and find a way to describe them in a way that everybody can kind of use. So examples are just this natural way humans clarify stuff. We use the phrase, for example, very often to clarify things. If you Google for example, there's about 220 million documents there trying to explain stuff. So examples are a natural way to explain stuff, and there's something that's concrete enough for people to complain. And if kind of going back to this email, when I look at this bottom part, it's kind of a bunch of examples somebody sent. So effectively what we started doing is kind of keeping that stuff and then trying to get testers and developers to agree or disagree with that stuff immediately and sending it back. And getting analysts and developers and testers in a room to discuss this stuff, and all of a sudden we started discovering all this feedback towards the start of the cycle, not towards the end. We started eliminating a lot of this kind of stupid rework, we started eliminating a lot of this stuff that we were generating ourselves, and we removed 50% of the stuff we were doing. And kind of from that perspective, there's a couple of things people do there. We know that kind of most of the times we have tests that are used to validate requirements, but we also have kind of examples that are used to clarify requirements, and we know that kind of examples can become tests. So one of the kind of interesting ideas of this is kind of, let's not have three versions of truth. Let's say one version of truth where we'll try to capture everything, therefore we don't need to translate, maintain, allow stuff to fall through the gaps, then discover them again, then consolidate them again, then capture them, translate, and stuff like that. We can have one version of truth, which allows us then to start removing even more work from what people were doing that's hidden. All this kind of transforming and disagreeing between Jira and emails and databases and ticketing systems and SharePoints and stuff like that was gone. So kind of from that perspective, we started reducing this feedback delay. We started discovering almost all of this stuff earlier on. But by kind of discussing these examples and getting testers to provide examples instead of being human keyboard automation devices, we were able to get testers to distribute all the checking to developers. Therefore, they could do exploratory testing. They could look at usability. They could look at some more important stuff that nobody had time to look at. We could get analysts to kind of kickstart the discussion, not be responsible for always being precise, always being correct, having to work 3 weeks ahead of the team to be able to kind of prepare stuff on time, and forgetting to provide information for the iteration developers are working on at the moment. We pushed all of that to the start of the cycle and allowed the analysts and testers to just facilitate stuff and distributed work to 10 developers. So all of a sudden, the pipeline was moving at the speed of 10 developers, not to the speed of one tester or two testers, not to the speed of one analyst. And we removed so much negative work that we started outrunning the